one image into that into our Python collector code. So today what we want to do is organize all this in this data structure, and then how do we import all of this into our environment. So we will look at how do we import all this training, validation, and test, as well as how do we make a preview of the images that we have, because we are not definitely going to read every single image. Yeah? So instead of me talking, image data generator. So image data generator is a very important package or function in Keras, yeah, in Keras or TensorFlow. Sorry, I forgot to put a section to introduce Keras and TensorFlow, but I'll just voice over. So whenever we deal with modern CV, whenever we want to use deep learning architecture, we will be using TensorFlow or Keras. Okay, so TensorFlow is a package that stores most of the deep learning architectures. Yeah, and Keras is just a package that is built on top of TensorFlow, which makes everything simpler from the user, from the application end. So we will be using Keras. So this image generator is one small package of Keras that help us with importing the images as well as augmenting the images. So let's take a look. So it is a class in TensorFlow that provides a convenient way to load images in batch. So it helps to increase the diversity by augmenting the data. So let's go to this documentation of TensorFlow to take a look at what we have. So, how many of you have used TensorFlow before? Okay. So one of you. So TensorFlow is a must-know package nowadays, especially when we work on deep learning on neural networks. Yeah. So it stores a lot of architecture within, as well as pre-trained model. We'll come to pre-trained model in a later session, probably a few weeks more. Yeah. So this is a documentation of TensorFlow. As we mentioned, we will be using Keras package, which is built on top of TensorFlow. So in terms of pre-processing, we have a very important package called image data generator. So what do we have in data generator, and how do we use this document? So every time when we want to start doing a new task, what we need to do is to visit the documentation. So from the documentation itself, what we can see is the functions that is written in this domain. So over here you can see we are calling this image data generator, and in the lab we have covered some of this image operations. So the rotation range can be defined as a part of image data generator with its particular name as well as some numbers. Yeah. So we'll go through the documentation to know what is the name. We can also do some with shift range. So this is translation. Yeah. With and height shift are translation. So brightness range is also something that we can play around with. Share ranges to see how can we pair the image apart. Zoom ranges. This is similar to a crop function, but they sort of package it as zoom range. So this channel shift range is something that is related to color. Horizontal flip and combinations of operations to work around with our data using this keras function. So as you work on your literature review, if the researchers they are using image data generator, you know that this is where you should extract what kind of operations or pre-processing have they applied on their images. The configuration of this package will be some important information. Yeah. These are all called the configuration. So I think you can go through the document yourself where it sort of explains everything that you have to write. Yeah. Okay, so let's go back to our material here. We have TensorFlow, as I mentioned, a library for machine learning, for deep learning, sorry, typo. Keras is a high-level API for TensorFlow, which we'll be using. So OS is a very important package here, especially when we are trying to define the directory of where our file or image file sits. Yes. An image data generator is the one that helps us to bring in data by batches as well as process them to augment them at the same time. Yeah. So let's try out following the instruction here, and at the end of this session, you should be able to produce this grid of images that you bring into this system. Yeah. So maybe you should try to start working on these instructions in another 30 minutes time to work on this. Let me know if you face any error message or you need any explanation of codes. The first step here is download the data set, the text and log data set from MyTimes. So once you download it, you have to upload to your Google Drive. You can also use this link to download the data set or the one which I share in MyTimes. Make sure that you have recorded all the out the first few stages. Yeah. On this part, you don't have to type this out. I also got this from the documentation. Yeah. So on how to display them. Okay. So now what do we do whenever we want to import our image in batches? So we are going to we wanted to import the TensorFlow, STF, import Keras, import OS. Yeah. So from this TensorFlow Keras pre-processing image, we will import the image data generator. Okay. So image data generator is the one that we use to bring in our images in batches as well as augmenting them. So then after importing all the important libraries, we will mount our Google Drive. So similar to what we have seen last week, whenever we want to bring in image data, we don't bring in the file itself. We just bring in the location or the URL. Yeah. So in order to bring in all the images, in this case by batches, we need to define the root folder. Okay. So what is the root folder? So we first define our root folder where you download the cats.small, right? So this is our root folder. So once we bring in the root folder, we will use the OS function here to say, okay, we want to take this first, the root folder here, base dir, and then access the train folder and put this as the train dir. Okay? So all our training data will be saved here. So all the cats and dogs, which means this one, everything will be within this train dir. Then how do we go about to define the validation once? How? Yes, we will take this base dir and define this validation. So the name here have to reflect the exact spelling of what you see in your folder name. Okay? This one is your exact folder name. So it is important. So after defining this training, testing, and validation set directories, what we need to do now is to bring in the images and together with the labels. So now we have training, validation, test. So now what we need to do is specify our classes. So under train, there are two classes, which is cats and also dogs. Yeah. So we are using the same function here, os.path.join. So instead of base dir, now we are using this train dir. Then we bring in the cat and also the dogs. Yeah. So we repeat the same thing for validation and test. So once we complete all of this, we should take a sense check of whether all the images are imported correctly or not. So then we will use the len function to check how long are there in this dir. So once we produce that, we will have a sense of whether our data is imported correctly. So at this stage, we just want to make sure that yes, we have imported all the images. We have the access to all the images. They are now connected. So now it's just that connected. So what? Then next what we wanted to do is data augmentation and use them, bring them in batches for training a model. So in order to do that, first we need to do batch size. So we know that each folder is, within each folder we have 1,000 images. So we are not bringing in 1,000 images at the same time, but we break them down into batches. So 32 is a good number to start with. So let's say we just want to bring this in every time we process 32 images together. Yeah. So next is we need to define the augmentation parameters. these are just the parameters itself. And right now, we will wrap this around in the image data generator function. Okay. So now this data gen will save the function of all the parameters of what you do, the image operations of the data augmentation function. So once we have this data gen, we can then apply this data gen function on our data set here. So we have to call this data gen over here and then say flow from our directory from where, then what is our target size, and apply this data gen, all this on the data set itself. Yeah? So then all of the processed or operated images will be set or will be saved in data generator. Okay? So then in data generator itself, you will see that, okay, it is supposed to tie all your images together with the label, because we have label cats and dogs by folder. Alright? So then how do we inspect whether the classes are tagged correctly or not, are tagged there or not? So now we will use this class indices to display. So now we know that cats, they are labeled as 0, dogs are labeled as 1. So bear in mind, in the case where your folder is contaminated, say for example, at this level, you accidentally include one IPYP file in the train folder. You may accidentally see that there are 3 classes here, and you know that something is wrong. So the ideal case is you only have 2 class indices if you have 2 classes of each. Okay? So that is about inspecting the class indices on how is it labeled. It is important to call out this label because later on, as we put all these images into a grid, we want to map the classes to cats and also dogs. So in the case where you see that your data here, cats is labeled, dogs is labeled as 0, cats is labeled as 1, then you have to flip the sequence of class mapping. Yeah? So this is manually mapped to produce a sense of what kind of images do we have. Right? So that is all for this practical class. So go back and try to run all this code. So what you really need to know or practice is this part. Yeah? The combination of the parameters. Try to switch the parameters around and see what happens. Okay? So in terms of this part where we are trying to create the grid, do not have to type them. Yeah? Because these are just sample code that is provided if you were to do it now. Image grid. So then you will be able to get the sample codes from the packages itself. Yeah. So do not have to practice writing this. Okay. So next week we will continue from here. We will use the data generator. We will use the augmented data to train the basic CNN for our base classification model. So make sure that your file is uploaded and then you have your variable before next week's class. Because training can take some time. I'll see you next week. So what you should do after going home is, in the case where you are doing image classification task, make sure that your images are saved in the data structure this way. Yeah? And you can also try opening a notebook to work on your image. make sure that